Okay, so today we're going to be doing the end of the year book tag. I usually wait until December to do this, but the questions kind of indicate that it's meant to be done with a few months left in the year, so I'm doing it right now. Question number 1, are there any books that you've started this year that you want to finish? So, other than what I'm currently reading, yes. I tend to be very comfortable with quitting a book if it's not working for me. We know this. We've talked about this. But there is one book that I DNF'd that I planned on being a permanent DNF because it didn't work out for me and I gave up. But I've actually been wanting to pick it back up soon. And that would be Percy Jackson, book 3. I don't know, guys. I enjoyed book 1 so much, and then book 2 I didn't enjoy even a little bit, and book 3 was just really formulaic, and it felt like it was doing the same things that books 1 and 2 were doing, just a little bit differently, and I got tired of the formula, and I was just not feeling it anymore, so I quit. I was encouraged very aggressively to continue on with the series. Not aggressively in a mean way, just a lot of people wanted me to continue on with the series. That book 4 finally breaks the formula. I happen to love labyrinths built into a story. Book 4 is a labyrinth. So many reasons for me to continue, but I didn't want to. Suddenly I do. Suddenly I'm really interested in finishing out book 3 and giving book 4 a go. So I plan on doing that. There you go, now you know. Question number 2, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? Well, I recently put out a cozy autumn book tag. It'll be linked. And I did answer that question in that tag, so I'll be really brief. There's this book called The Deal of the Lifetime. It's a Bachman book. It's technically not autumnal. It's Christmassy. It's wintry, but I don't know what an autumn book is. How does a book be autumn? How do you do? So I don't really know what that means, so I'm going with A Deal of a Lifetime. Is there a new release you're still waiting for? Yes, it's called Rhythm of War. It's book 3 in the Stormlight Archive. There. I'm going to be getting it about a month before, if not a little bit less than a month before the release date, and I'm really excited for this book. I have really long book talks for each of the first 3, so go check them out, I guess, if you like this series, and I'm really excited to get this book. What are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? I could just cheat, and I could talk about the books that I've already promised to read by the end of the year. I did a 5-star predictions video, books that I think that could be 5 stars if I read them, and then I made a commitment to read all of them by the end of the year. I think I've read 2 of them, but I can't remember what other book. There's one book that I can't remember that was on that list. Oh no! Okay, well, I just looked it up. I've only read 1 of them so far. Here's 3 that I plan on reading right away. You Have a Lifetime. Hi, we've talked about this. 11/22/63 I'm currently reading, and this bad boy, which since I have talked to people since that 5-star predictions video, I no longer predict that I'm going to give all of these books 5 stars, but that's fine. I'm still going to give them all a fair shot. But outside of that, 3 books that I plan on reading by the end of the year: Rhythm of War, Jade City, which won the poll for one of our buddy reads that we're going to be doing in November over on the public server, and The Shadow of the Wind, which I thought was a fantasy but is actually literary fiction. I think that's how people corrected me, and I'm pretty excited about that. But also, I really want to get into Scandinavian crime books, which I didn't even know was a thing until Tim started talking about it, and now I need to get into that because that might be the kind of mystery books that I would like. Do you guys have some recommendations? If that's a genre that you're well read on, where should I start? Is there a book you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? Well, that's a weird question, because if I think it could become a favorite of the year, why would that be shocking? Yeah, I think most of the books that I plan on reading by the end of this year could be a favorite. Shadow of the Wind, I think, is probably going to be different than what I usually read, but I think it could easily end up working really well for me based off of what little I know about it. Jade City, Daniel has practically threatened to stop talking to me if I don't read it soon, so I get the feeling I'm gonna like it. And Daphne du Maurier is quickly becoming one of my favorite authors of all time, and I plan on buying a lot of her books and just breezing through them, and I expect every single one of them is going to be just as much of a masterpiece as the two that I've already read. Oh, also, I want to read Best Served Cold so bad, but I keep prioritizing these buddy reads that I'm doing, which is awesome because I'm enjoying them, and then it keeps pushing Best Served Cold back, and now that I'm getting an arc for Rhythm of War, it's gonna be pushed back even more, but I'm dying to read this book, so I'm going to read it, dadgummit, by the end of the year, and I think it'll easily be a favorite because Joe Abercrombie simply can't do wrong. Have you already started making reading plans for 2020? I haven't. I don't know what I'm gonna do about 2020 reading. 2021 reading plans. I don't know, it feels like 2020 didn't even happen. I think I'll probably keep a similar structure to what I had this year. I really was intentional about trying to make sure that I read from a lot of different genres, even though fantasy is the easiest genre for me to reach for. I try to make sure that only about half of what I'm reading each month is fantasy, and then I'm picking up literary fiction and thrillers and horror and nonfiction and all these other genres that science fiction, all these other genres that I love. I just don't really reach for as quickly and easily, and I think it's because so much of BookTube loves fantasy, and so it's really easy to just read what everybody else is reading, which is usually fantasy. And I try to pay attention to other genres too because there's so many genres that I love. So I think I'll still try to be very intentional about that. But other than that, I don't think I'm gonna set any big goals this year. We'll see. I'd like to read more manga and graphic novels in 2021 than I did in 2020. That's the whole tag. This is very, very short. But there it is. Those are all the questions. Be sure to chat with me more about this stuff in the comments. Feel free to answer these questions as well. I'll have them linked in the description. And I've recently started sharing my writing over on Patreon, so check that out if you feel like it. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.